Hello there guys, welcome back to Younes Talks Football. I hope all of you are doing well as we get into a new day, a new dollar, new videos. One of two is right now, later on tonight. We'll see what happens from now till later, but there should be a video number 2 too. So make sure you guys are subscribed, notification bell on, stay tuned. Let's get into the latest, and we've actually got quite a bit of Chelsea activity and we've got major activity elsewhere. So stay till the end because big things have happened. But let's start off at Chelsea. The transfer strategy, should we say. In the past window, there were fans asking about our centre-back situation. And obviously with the situation with Levi Colwill, there was an importance in the fan base of should we get a centre-back or should we not? Well, maybe we've got an answer. And it's going to be what I think a few people don't want to hear. But I think there's also going to be a few people that understand this. So let's get into it. Here's The Athletic, Simon Johnson specifically, stating what direction Chelsea have taken. Centre-back should be kept an eye on for January, should Chelsea struggle without Colwill. However, it is more likely Chelsea would recall Sarr or Anselmino than spend. Very important to note that. Very important. Now, let me go into a little bit more detail. Here it is. Chelsea will be reluctant to block the pathways of Mamadou Sarr on loan at Strasbourg and Aaron Anselmino on loan at Borussia Dortmund. It is more likely one of them will be recalled rather than a new addition be added. Let's just cut to the chase. They're basically telling you and me, if it comes to it in January, we're going to recall one of these guys. End of story. Right? And right now, Mamadou Sarr on loan at Strasbourg. Cool. Going good. Anselmino on loan at Dortmund. Going really well so far. Really well. So we are in a position to be able to look at either one of those players. I would say Anselmino a little bit more and go, hang on. Is he cut for it? Is he ready? Maybe. If it comes to January and we still need to bring in a defender, yeah. Forget about buying a defender. That's not happening. I'm going to just say that now. It's not happening. It's going to be one of these guys. And chances are, if Anselmino keeps playing the way that he's playing so far, he's had a fantastic start for Dortmund, then it probably will be Anselmino. And this brings me to, like I've said before, where I think, my opinion here, where I think Chelsea are looking in terms of the players to bring into Chelsea if we have to bring players into Chelsea. It's not going to be a case of attacking the transfer market any longer. It's not. This is why we didn't get a goalkeeper. This is why we didn't go and buy a striker. Yes, there's interest based on market opportunities, right? But those opportunities didn't transpire, and we're not going to go out and splash the cash on a player that we know we'll have to go a little bit long-term with when it's going to block the pathways of players that they've already brought in that they are going to look at in a year from now. Hence, why Sanchez is still the #1 goalkeeper right now. We could have easily gone in and got Mike Maignan, which a lot of us were advocating for. I was advocating for. But what I'm telling you now is that Chelsea are looking at Penders and going, if we bring in a goalkeeper now, even for this season, that's going to be the #1 guy, then what happens to Penders? Because we want him to be the #1 guy, but he's not ready just yet. He will be ready next season if his loan goes well. So we're going to have to wait a year, and then he'll come in, and then we're sorted. Done. Don't need to look at it again. Similarly to how we've, for example, we got Esteval. He still spent time over in Palmeiras. Now we've brought him in. We got Santos. We sent him on loan to Strasbourg. Left him there for a season. Now he's in the squad. Similar. It's the same thing. But this is why we're starting to, now I think we're starting to really get the answer as to why we didn't really attack the transfer market in areas that we thought we would. Because there's pathways for players that we're looking to inject into the team next season. And you know what? There's a whole list. There's a whole list. Goalkeeper, Penders. Defenders, Anselmino, Sarr. Winger, Quenda. Striker, Emega. And there's more. There's Kendry Paez. There's players that we're all looking and keeping an eye on and going, hang on, let's see how this loan goes. And then, you know. And Chelsea are probably looking at these players going, yeah, well, you know what? If they actually cut it as we think they're going to cut it, they're going to be ready to come into the squad. So let's just hold off fire. We'll hold fire. Hold it. Give it a season. So that explains it. So for anyone, say for example right now, oh, we need a goalkeeper because we don't trust Sanchez. Yeah, no, cool. I think Chelsea would agree with you. But Chelsea's solution is Penders. If you're like, no, we need a central defender, we need a centre-back, I think Chelsea would agree with you. But they'll go, you know what? Hold fire. We've got cover for now, just about, we'll risk it. But we've got Anselmino and Sarr that we're looking at, just in case. If anyone says, oh, no, you know what? We need a winger because we don't feel like we're quite cut. Maybe Chelsea go, no, you know what? You got a point. Especially on that right-hand side, you got a point. Don't worry, we got Quenda there. Give him a season. Anyone saying, no, but we need a striker. We need a third guy because we're stuck. They've gone, that's cool. Don't worry. We've got who we've brought in now. We're covered. But we've got Omega who we're keeping an eye on because we're sure in him. That's what's going on here. That's the pathway. That's where Chelsea are heading. So do not expect any names in the transfer market. Even in January, don't expect it. And if we do need to turn to someone, like it's been stated here, especially in defense, because the centre-back situation is the one that we're looking at going, oh my God, you know, like with Levi Colwell's struggles, if something happens to Tosin, then yeah, then what? You know, well, Anselmino, Sarr. Probably the same thing could happen with even the striker situation. Although I think with Omega, it's a little bit of a... I think it's a little bit tricky. I think he's definitely going to be spending a whole season at Strasbourg and then he comes into Chelsea. But let's wait and see. Now, this is where we go to the market opportunity. This has also come from The Athletic. Bear this one in mind. Check this out. There are still funds available for Chelsea in January to do something should they need to. Chelsea provided a clue in that regard by lodging a €40 million bid for Barcelona midfielder Fermin Lopez a few days before the deadline and opted not to pursue it. That sum was not spent elsewhere. We got a loan for Buonanotte. That's about it, remember. So there are some funds. You see, so there are funds. We've just had that confirmation that there's funds. So why didn't we pull the trigger for Xavi Simons? What's going on there? This is where Chelsea are looking for, if we go into the market and it makes sense financially for the type of player like Lopez, for example, you go, yeah, okay, pull the trigger, no problem. We might as well. But if not, that's cool, don't worry. We've got Kendry Paez cooking. You know what I mean? And hence right now we covered ourselves with Buonanotte. I don't feel like Chelsea are bothered in terms of going into the market and like determined that we must get a player. Because I feel like for Chelsea, it's like, okay, now look, if it's a proper opportunity and it makes financial sense, cool. If it doesn't, it's fine. We've got what we already settled on. And hence, someone like Kendry Paez, well, Chelsea can easily go, no, you know what? If worse comes to us, we're happy with that. Cool, no problem. We'll just let him develop and we'll have him in the squad later at some point. Don't worry. That's where I think Chelsea have gone. And it seems more and more evident that seems to be the case. So I want to ask you, what do you think? Do you think it's right or not? Now, personally, let me tell you my opinion on this. There was a time where I'd look at this and go, what? This is nonsense. Especially, and I'll give you an example, Mike Maignan, because I really wanted Mike Maignan, right? But I feel like now, it's like I said at the back end of the season, and I feel like going into this season and more, this now deserves a little bit of time to cook. It deserves a little bit of a chance. Let's wait and see what happens then. Cool. We'll go with your way. Let's see how this goes. Because we've had some young players and some players that have come in based on this methodology that are actually playing really, really well now. So we're like, okay, you know what? Let's take a step back and let's see what all of the other young lot are going to be doing. I'll give you an example. Mike Penders, for example, in goal, is someone that has been, I don't want to say hyped so much, but there is an expectation. Remember at the very beginning when we were linked with him, we were told he's the next Courtois. Do you remember that? Well, cool, let's see. You know what I mean? I feel like now I'm in a position, I don't want to shoot something down without actually knowing what it's going to be like. You know? Because there have been players that have been brought in with this way of thinking that are now in the Chelsea squad. And I'm like, yo, you know what? He's actually really good. You know? I'll give you 2 examples. I remember looking at João Pedro and the clip was going online everywhere. Yeah, it basically went viral. I think it got 500,000 views on X alone of me shooting down João Pedro whilst we were linked with him because he's from Brighton. I have to put my hands up and say lesson learned. I have to, because my frustration was just, it wasn't even João Pedro. It was constantly going to Brighton. That was just my frustration. Because I'm here like with, and again, look, let me be honest. This logic applied, I think, before. This is why I say now I'm more and more adamant football's changed. And it's currently still changing. To constantly go to a club like Brighton and pluck out players from a club like Brighton, before, you wouldn't have even dreamed of being able to pursue the Premier League that way. No chance. It wouldn't work. Because you're going to a club and you're relying on so much from that club at a certain level that you think, you can't win the league like that. You can't. We are now entering an era where you can. You can. You can compete at the top level by going down that route, because many clubs are going down that route because it makes financial sense and there's a developmental process now. Unlike before, which that was kind of ignored because you just went for the big players. With Brighton, that was the frustration. Constantly going to them, but now we look, let's be honest. Cucurella, Caicedo, you know, João Pedro now. He's cooking. I'm like, okay, you know what? That was a bloody good buy, wasn't it? You can't deny it. You cannot deny it. Estevan. He was the epitome of the model. Go into somewhere that no one's gone into, pluck out this young lad that no one's heard of. You know, he's going to come into Chelsea, he's going to be a star. And we're all like, nah, come on, man. This is not how you win trophies. Because that's not how it used to be done before. Look at Estevan now. And he's only just getting started. You know what I mean? So now I'm in a thought of, no, you know what? Now, let's give things a chance. Let's actually give things a chance for a moment. Instead of being able to react so early, let's just sit on it for a bit. Sit on it for a bit. And let's see. Cool. So this thought process, who knows if the next guys are going to go down the same path? I think even evidently, Cole Palmer was the first guy that we all thought, yo, hang on, what's this? And then all of a sudden, yo, it's Cole Palmer now. Wow. So it deserves an opportunity. This is why now with them taking this decision, Anselmino, Sarr, even later on, Omega to come in, Quenda to come in, let's give it a shot. Because one thing we can't deny is, yes, Chelsea have improved. And hopefully we keep heading up that way. And this is why, despite all of this, the expectations should still be there and the demand should still be there that we should go and compete to try and win the Premier League title. End of story. And we should realistically be able to do it. So let's see. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think it's good or do you think it's bad? I want to know you down below. Much appreciated. And this is also another thing. Bear this in mind. Enzo Maresca. The Athletic goes on to say Maresca knew that his say in transfers at Stamford Bridge would be limited and that his main task was to concentrate on coaching the team. This is the whole point of being collaborative, as we remember back when the new owners walked through the door about collaboration and we were frustrated in the way that it didn't work out with Thomas Tuchel. Maresca is the sort of guy that is going to make his opinion known, but he will still be able to work with what he has. And it's a little bit of give and take. It's like, okay, look, here's what I want. Give me what I want. But if you can't go all the way, I will still work with what you have. But you have to promise me to try your best to get what I need. And it's a little bit of a give and take here. That's the vibe that I'm getting. But Maresca seems like he's just happy to put his head down and work. And I have to be honest, he has absolutely smashed it so far. With that in place, I think he's been top class. So, Maresca, fair play to him. But I think this is what's going to help him to stay for a long time. as long as results don't plummet. But this is also what has helped gain the trust of the squad and of the club on his part. And I think in turn the fans as well. Because now we look at Maresca and we can even acknowledge these limitations and go flipping out. He's still doing a banging job though, isn't he? And what does that do? That brings more trust in that gaffer, which is what we're feeling. So let's see. Let's see how it all goes. But let me know your thoughts on all of that. Much appreciated. I want to know your opinions. Let's move to a couple of things elsewhere. Well, not elsewhere. We've still got one thing at Chelsea. Asugo latest from international duty. Asugo felt a muscle problem in his right thigh during training. A statement from the Portuguese Football Federation confirmed. So it looks like he's not going to be involved for the rest of international duty. Again, that's not the end of the world. Because he's not a starter at Chelsea. He's just depth. If we need to rest Caicedo for a little bit, we bring Asugo on. Hopefully it's nothing serious. He gets monitored. He gets checked up. He gets a little bit of a rest and a recovery. Comes back to Chelsea. And he's not going to play the next couple of games at least, isn't he? Surely not, because Caicedo will. But in that time, hopefully he would have recovered in terms of what's necessary and what's needed. So let's wait and see what happens. Let me know your thoughts down below. Let's go to Man City. Before we wrap up, big news, big news. Let me explain. Here's Ben Jacobs. Breaking, the Premier League and Manchester City have reached a settlement in relation to associated party transaction rules. The parties have agreed to terminate proceedings. As part of the settlement, Man City accepts that the current APT rules are valid and binding. We also have the Premier League has reached a settlement with Man City over its challenge to sponsorship rules, paving the way for the club to complete a wide-ranging deal with Etihad Airways. So the APT rules are basically rules in relation to sponsorship deals that relate to the football club and the same ownership that are in place to that company that wants to do a deal with that club. In this case, the owners of Manchester City and Etihad Airways are linked. They're kind of the same guys, right? So the APT rules prevents football clubs from being able to inflate those sort of deals on the books to make it look like there's been more money in order to facilitate the club to go out and spend more and be okay when it comes to FFP, right? Because all they got to do is change a couple of numbers because it's the same people that own the sponsor and the football club. So do you know what I mean? They've come to an agreement. So that Man City and the Premier League have come to a settlement on this, which now paves the way for Manchester City to go and do the deal with Etihad as planned, and everything will be okay. I gotta be honest, I don't know the ins and outs of this deal. Obviously, Manchester City are sponsored by Etihad, of course. I mean, that's the flipping name of their stadium. They've got the rights. And with Manchester City, their ownership, Etihad being a major company related to the same ownership of Manchester City, it's no surprise that there's been some suspicion on maybe numbers being inflated in order to allow Manchester City to then conduct transfer activity as they please. But it now seems like a settlement has opened the door for at least Manchester City to acknowledge that publicly, but at the same time, allow them to go and do the deal that they want to do. How is that deal going to be done? I don't know. But the Premier League are going to be cool with it. So, are rules being adhered to? According to the Premier League, yes. Everything's all okay now. That's not related to the 115. That's a completely separate kettle of fish. Do not mix the two. 115 is something else. That's not been settled. This is just about the APT rules. So, Manchester City and the Premier League reach a settlement. That deal will now go through. They've been given the green light. They've settled. Premier League are cool with it. Cool. So, let's see what happens. Now, I know some people are going to have a problem with it because at face value, it doesn't look too great, does it? At face value, you go, oh, well, okay. But truth of the matter is, deep in terms of the detail, we don't actually know. We don't know. So, can't speculate. But I know for many people, it's not going to be entirely surprising. So let's wait and see how this one's going to go down. Let's see, because now what this does, we have to also acknowledge what this does. This settlement also allows the doors to open for other football clubs that have the same structure. So even, and let me give you an example, this could open the door for Chelsea. This could open the door for Chelsea and their ownership to then do something with a company that is very close to the Chelsea ownership in order to get a sponsorship deal done. Very possible. It opens the door for all the clubs. This has now opened the door for all the clubs and their ownerships to now do deals with companies that are very close to the ownerships of said clubs. So let's see what the fallout is going to be from this. And you see, this is why the Premier League, and look, this is, let me give you my honest opinion on this. The Premier League have settled here. And of course they were going to settle. Because what does this do? We were talking about this yesterday when we were talking about Bayern Munich. What does this do? This makes the Premier League stronger. The Premier League are not going to turn this down. Because what does it mean for the league? More money injected. And what does more money injected mean? More resources, more transfers, more faces, more attention, more money. That's it. Of course the Premier League were not going to say no, like indefinitely. Of course not. But this is why the Premier League is the #1 league in the world. This is why Germany cannot compete, for example. This is why no league in the world can compete. Because there's too much financial power in the Premier League. And the Premier League are happy to open the door for it. So, let's see what's going to happen. Let me know your thoughts down below. Much appreciated. So, I'll catch all of you later tonight. Video number 2. Make sure you're here. Subscribe, notification bell on. And I'll catch all of you then. Look after yourself. See you tonight. Take care, people. And peace.